What's up, guys? This is Jakob. I'm Content AI Manager and founder of Content AI Tools. Welcome to a new episode of the Content AI Show, where I speak with experts around the world who create or use AI technology for creating content. That's basically what we do on this format. I'm speaking with CEOs, CMOs who are within the software business. And today I have a very special guest. His name is Henrik the Gyor. He's a consultant, he's a podcaster, he's a speaker and an author. And more importantly, he's also the co-founder of My Damn Services. So we are going to speak about this name, which is very interesting in my opinion. And the reason why we're talking today is because, I'm testing a lot of tools, but Henrik has much more experience when it comes to tools because he's within the synthetic media, which is, we were going to speak about that. I don't want to say too much about this, but welcome to the show, Henrik. Very excited to speak with you today.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, Jakob.
Yes, also I was also on your show, which is cool. That's the power of podcasting and creating content together. It's like you're winning friends everywhere, and then you're on other people's shows. That's really cool. So very excited to speak with you today. But before we jump into synthetic media, can you so you have My Damn Podcast, My Damn Blog, and your company is My Damn Services. So why this name? So what's the main reason for that?
Sure. So it's DAM, which actually stands for Digital Asset Management, which actually that's what I'm a consultant in. So it's the managing of digital media, right? Any format, audio, video, text, graphics, photos, typically, for typically organizations, large, medium, small. It's how you search, find, use, reuse, and repurpose your content. So it makes it easier to find it, usually based on metadata. But that's how I got interested in digital asset management, is doing that for other companies. So I'm a consultant in that space. And I podcasted about it. I blogged about it. That was my first blog and podcast 12 years ago. So Another Damn Blog and Another Damn Podcast.com. And then I started 9 other podcasts since then.
Nice.
And my latest one is called Synthetic Media Podcast. Yeah, you can find all the podcasts on henrikdegyor.com, so myname.com, and look up all the podcasts, all the books, everything I do, and things like that. But My Damn Services was something that I co-founded with someone named Frank DiCarlo, where we believe that digital asset management had some gaps, mostly on the services part, where you had a system that did something, right, that managed to one degree or another systems or assets, files, right, with metadata. But no one did the metadata for you, and no one did the curation for you. So the system doesn't do curation. The system doesn't apply metadata. So some of the services that mydamnservices.com does. And the other part that we included in My Damn Services, since I was diving very deep into synthetic media, which we'll talk about in a minute, is synthetic media services, which is basically leveraging all the top players in the world and understanding how they work, and how other businesses can leverage them, which ones to leverage depending on what the ask is, or what the challenge or the problem happens to be, right? Whether it's I want to text to video, or I want speech to speech in different languages, or whatever the ask is, right? Or I want a video avatar of myself, or someone to communicate to my business or to my clients, that kind of thing. All these are very, very possible today and exist today, which we'll talk about very briefly. But that's a very tertiary, high level view of what I do.
Yeah, so just one quick follow-up, because you mentioned metadata. Can you explain what so for me, metadata, when I think about this one, is I am thinking about the back end of WordPress, the meta title and things like that. Is that what you mean?
Yes. So there's more than that in the world of metadata. So data, it's just data about data. It's basically descriptive information about the file. It's technical information about the file. It's the information that describes the file or the contents of the file. Administrative, like rights, like who can use the file, how it can be used. There's a variety of different kinds of metadata, but that's one of the things that mydamnservices.com does.
And it's important. So just to set the meta level on this, it's important to use this or be aware of this, because that's the way how you guarantee that Google is finding your content and the assets that you are creating, right?
On the SEO side, yes, but it's more importantly, it's how you find your own files.
Okay.
In your own company, because keep in mind, like, how often can you find something that you created a week, a month, or a year ago, or that you didn't create yourself, but you still have to find it?
Yes, that's a good point. It's so in my case, it's I'm using, for example, a content distribution tool, and everything that I'm uploading from video assets, pictures, it's in the store library, and I can refine it. That's the way how I use it.
Right.
Or I'm also using YouTube basically as my store, because for example, this video is also on YouTube, and when I'm at the end of the month or at the end of a week, I'm looking, okay, what did I produce, and can I recreate or create this piece of content again? And yeah, that's how I do it. Yeah.
Right.
But I think
you,
there are many ways to do it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's you probably leverage the description of the show, or the name of the people that you spoke with, or probably the transcript as well of the videos, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Absolutely. Cool. That's so exciting. So was there one defining moment for you when it comes to synthetic media where you thought, "Well, this is a big thing. I have to put all my eggs in this basket." Was there one moment?
Well, so it wasn't all eggs in one basket. It was a curiosity. So I'm a very curious person by nature, and what I did was I dedicated I'd say about a year of deep research time, of researching synthetic media. I wanted to know everyone in the world who did it, all the companies that did it, understand every aspect of it possible, and then keep going down that tree. So asking, like, oh, well, who can I talk to about this every time I had an interview? So I lined up about 50 interviews in the first year. So full disclosure, I started in 2021 looking into this, and I launched a book and a podcast this year in 2022. So the book is called Synthetic Media: The Next Reality, and the podcast is called Synthetic Media Podcast. You can find it at syntheticmediapodcast.com. So every week, for the most part, I have a different interview with a person who's working within the field of synthetic media, whether it's someone who's developing software or a tool around that, or leveraging it one way or another, or creating policy, or working on the ethical side of it, or provenance around it, or understanding how it might be used for different business scenarios. All those kind of scenarios of people I talk to in the synthetic media podcast, of who's leveraging it, who's creating it, how are they creating it, what inspired them to create it, what challenges are they fixing, and what challenges are they facing, and what challenges do we see going forward, as well as what successes have they had so far, right? Because it's basically iterative, like many technologies, right? So it only improves over time for the most part, and so does the adoption. And we'll talk about that going into the hour.
Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, I'm just repeating myself, but I'm super excited because what I have to do is I have to take your podcast and interview all the people that you already interviewed in my last job, because it's a perfect fit. So it's really yeah. Anyway, so yeah.
And I make it that easy. Go ahead. You're saying.
Yeah. Sorry for interrupting. I'm just super curious. So, in your explanation, what is synthetic media? How are you defining it?
Sure. So synthetic media is basically a catch-all term, but it's basically media, and that's typically, and we're going to define what media means in general terms very shortly. But it's anything that's being fully or partially generated by computers, right? So it's not artificially created by a human. It's nudged by a human saying, I kind of want this, but most of it is being generated by an AI, by a machine, right? So a computer is generating it, and what's different about synthetic media is typically it's a lot of it is generative AI, where it's created often by a GAN, not always, but a lot of it is created by a general adversarial network. And just to explain that on a very, very high level, imagine two computers that are fighting against each other, for the lack of a better term. Okay. And there's a human says, I want this, and they'll maybe enter a little bit of text, like literally a sentence saying, I want this. And the computer will generate something based on that, a video, a photo, literally just based on text. And they're not searching the web. They're generating something that's completely unique for the first time ever. And then the second computer goes, I can do better than that. And it creates a better image of that. And then the first computer does the same thing and says, I can do this better. I can do this better. And then you keep on going and continually improving, because they're adversarial, and the human, all they can do basically on the side is saying, well, can you improve this? Or can you improve that? And I'll give some examples. One of the perfect examples is DALL-E. DALL-E 2. It's DALL-E. So it's a play on words, very similar to the artist, right? Except different spelling. And also the movie Wall-E, if you've ever seen that one, the Pixar movie. Very, very good movie.
I love this movie. I love it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So if you love both the artist and the movie, you'll understand how wild art can be created by computers. That's basically the short story of what DALL-E does. And it's available now, finally. Still in I'm going to say a second beta, if you will. They're on their second version as we speak, DALL-E 2. Where it's an iterative improvement over what they can do, and you can suggest, hey, I want to see an image of this, and it doesn't go find a stock image like we normally would do in previously to synthetic media. It generates a specific image based on what you're asking for. So you can ask for the wildest thing you can possibly imagine, and it's literally limited to your own imagination. That's the main thing. So now you're the blocker or the limitation, because it's solely up to your imagination to come up with the wildest thing possible, or the most functional thing possible that you need immediately to see. And that could be text to image. We talked about that. So you literally type into sentence and it'll generate an image, right? So monkey playing basketball, for example, right? Or polar bear playing, soccer, or anything you want, right? And then the other thing that we have to consider is, so that's an example of synthetic media. But back to the definition, for example, so we understand that synthetic means it's machine made, right? And media is the plural of medium, right? It's a means of communication. Most people consider media as audio or visual, right? So photo, video, radio, podcast, anything you can hear or see, right? Whether it's moving or not, right? But media is going to be redefined by synthetic media, because what I found so far is from my interviews from people all over the world is they've already synthesized, meaning they made synthetic media for all 5 senses. Yes, that's right. So not only what you can see, what you can hear, but what you can taste, smell, and touch, which is very mind-blowing. It'll take a moment for that to sink in. So yes, smell-o-vision is probably coming in the future. What's probably coming sooner beyond what we can actually see and hear, which they're very much working on, as far as the voice and everything you can think of, and video. So text to video exists already, speech to speech, where literally I have examples of musical artists who say, you know what, I want a larger audience. So I want you to translate my voice into a different language, because I can't speak all languages in the world, but synthetic media can make me sing perfectly in Mandarin. So let's say I'm only speaking in English, but I can suddenly speak in Spanish, Chinese, you name it, anything you want. And with my voice, that's the key thing, right? So it doesn't sound like someone else's voice suddenly, which we saw with an ad a few years ago, which was done, which was a fairly popular ad that was done a few years ago. But that's actually old technology. Now they figured out literally around this year, and it's changing so rapidly, that you can change someone's voice into a different language, even when they're singing, which is just mind blowing. So it opens up so many possibilities. And before we get to the possibilities, we probably need to talk about how we overcome the challenges of what people are thinking up front, the fear factor, the what if this happens, right? And the ethical questions, right? And that's the very first things that we have to overcome for this to be adopted properly. Because the main thing is everyone is afraid of new things, right? Is afraid of change, right? So you have to overcome those things. And how do we overcome it? Well, with safeguards. So unfortunately, all technology, literally all technology, has an adoption curve, and the first people who adopt it are the nefarious, and that's very true with blockchain. It's very true with synthetic media in the same respect, where blockchain was first used by nefarious people, and then people figured out, wait, you can do that with that? Wow, that's amazing. Well, I could use all these good things with it. And eventually the bad was drowned out. It continues to exist, of course, but the bad got drowned out and the good prevailed, right? So that happened with Photoshop. Everyone thought as soon as Photoshop came out, everyone would just use it for porn. Well, we're well beyond that nowadays, right? Video, same thing. The video actually was used for porn first, and then now, well, we're using it for a lot more than that. Mobile.
Interesting. The starting point is always the same.
Well, yeah, sadly, it is because whether you like it or not, porn has an enormous audience, worldwide audience, and it's not going away whether we like it or not. So they have a huge amount of money, they have a huge audience, and that's why it propagates that way. So likely it's on the nefarious scale, right? And unfortunately, the use of synthetic media and porn is of course nefarious, because what they're doing is face swapping people's face with people who are actually doing sexual acts, which is not good, right? Because they're not actually doing those things, but it looks like they're doing those things, which is unfortunate. Is there a way to combat that? Yes, there, to a degree. But the easier way to do it is to focus on what can we do that's positive about it, and also understand how those things are created and how to safeguard ourselves about that too. So the sooner you're able to do that, the easier it is. And there's several people that are working on that I've spoken to. Some are literally working for Microsoft and Adobe, the two major content creating software suites, if you will, or platforms that are adopting these things into their own software. So there's an effort called C2PA.org, and there's also the CAI, not CIA, but CAI, the Content Authenticity Initiative, and then there's a few other groups that are basically working on the history of media, of a specific file, so you understand the origin of something. So you'll be able to click on a button and understand the origin of where that thing came from and how it was manipulated and who manipulated it. So there'll be actually a history. If you've ever seen the Photoshop history panel, for example, it'll be very similar to that. So that's coming soon. They already have the first iteration of that as of January of this year, 2022. And then so there's some of the safeguards and some of the provenance that are working on it. And then there's also the awareness, right? So there's several books about deepfakes that you can definitely take a look at, including Nina Sheik's book and my book, which I lightly touch on. My book mostly focuses on the positive, full disclosure, because way too many people are focusing on the negative, which of course sells more books. Because just like news, they focus on the negative because that's what people want to watch, sadly. So I focus on the positive aspects as much as I can. I do cover the ethical parts of it, but yeah. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, just for the record, I'm also this optimistic guy. So I'm also focusing on the best way to leverage this technology to make my job and the jobs of other people easier. So there will be always somebody who misuse technology. That's, I mean, you can't prevent this. This is
No.
going to happen, but we have to figure it out. And one thing that I thought in the past months was regulations. So how to make sure from a content standpoint. So how to make sure that the videos that I produce are to some degree labeled, because something will happen. Some extreme right parties or something will misuse deep fake software or any kind of this AI technology to spread misinformation, and then democratic parties will discuss, and they will at the end say, okay, we have to make sure that everything that is AI generated must have a label, some watermark or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
And
that's what they're working on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you can protect yourself and say, okay, I have my own hashtag, and if you want to see AI generated content by myself, then just look up all the posts that I have, and everywhere where you find this hashtag, this is to some degree with AI generated. So that's my practical advice to everybody who's afraid of using this kind of technology. You have to make sure that you label it. That's one way to make it transparent. I think I don't know what you think about that. That's my way of saying I want to make sure, and I'm proactively showing what I produce with AI.
Yeah, there's several factors around that. To your exact point, part of that is disclosure. To your exact point, because you have to do disclosure up front to tell people, hey, this is synthetic, because literally nowadays you can't tell anymore, right? It's so good that you can't tell what's the difference. So there is several things. So it starts with intent, right? You either have a nefarious intent, or you don't know any better, or you have a positive intent, right? That you want to do something constructive. Then there's consent. To your point, like I've consented to creating my own avatar, right? That where someone can type in, whether it's myself or someone else can type text, and I can say, yes, I approve this. Then there's content moderation, right? Very similar. So once it's created, so I give consent that my avatar was created, and then the content that's created with my avatar, I consent to that. Then there's countermeasures, which unfortunately, because of its an adversarial network, the technology literally improves all the time. So what we were looking for, typically, as far as like, there's artifacts like faults in the video or the audio, in this way or this way, are getting corrected very, very quickly. So in the coming, I'm going to say, couple years, probably, you won't be able to tell. I mean, even today, it's very, very hard to tell, whether it's audio, whether it's video, whether it's an image. You almost can't tell at all unless you know exactly what you're looking for. I can show you a 4K video of an avatar where they wink, they have micro gestures, you can see every pore on their face. You look at them looking at you directly, and moving around, and they can turn their head, everything, and you can't tell. And that was completely synthetic, where they can control the avatar's every movement, right? So that's and it's not a character, it's a human, it's a digital human is what they're basically calling it. And then back to the other things regarding ethics, spheres, and safeguards. So we have intent, consent, content moderation, countermeasures, disclosure, to your point, right? Law and policy, right? Which are being developed, let's just say, both in the United States and Europe, among other places. And then lastly, provenance, which is back to the history of the actual file itself, like how it's been manipulated, if it's manipulated, and who did it, and when, and what changed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but the last thing, does this mean when I have a file that I can look up the complete history, and if it's so I'm recording myself, and for example, this video, somebody is taking this YouTube video and trying to do bad things with it.
Sure.
And I could check it up and see, okay, somebody tried to manipulate it, and based on the information that is on the file. Is that
Yes.
what
Yes.
you
Yes.
mean?
So eventually you'll see an icon somewhere, like a little eye icon, like for a little information icon that'll appear at a top corner, right? And you'll be able to click on it. If there's and it may be for other media, but it's for media that's been edited one way or another.
Yeah.
Now, almost all videos are edited to one degree or another, unless it's a live stream, right? And even then, it's slightly edited, right? But for the most part, if you know how it's been edited, and you can look at the history and go, "Oh, look, someone's face has been removed," or and it was done then, or both faces were removed. I've seen literally interviews with two avatars talking to each other. It's very entertaining. Where one is interviewing the other. If you've seen that one, I interviewed the person who did one of those.
Cool.
So yeah.
Okay. So yeah, but it would be still very technical, right? So it's not like that the average user can check this.
Yes, the average user should be able to check this because it's literally just an icon at the top, right? So you'll be able to click on it and then see the history, and it'll be very, very. It won't be on a technical scale. It'll just be like a laundry list of things that happened, with timestamps, right? And like this was changed. This was changed. This kind of like a laundry list of things that have happened to the file, as disclosure and provenance. So the history of what happened to it, which the Adobe and Microsoft and a number of even content creators are working on, including media like news sources, are very, very interested in that because they don't want their media edited in any way, shape, or form for the most part but interestingly enough, speaking of media, some news media is using synthetic media on purpose. Like there's a well-known radio podcast, a news show, a morning show, where for several months they had an AI, a Microsoft AI, that you couldn't tell at all, except they disclosed the fact that it was a Microsoft AI that was gonna tell the news. They never took a break. They never took any vacation or days off, right? Because they don't need to, right? They spoke perfectly. They said everything that was in the script, right? It had tonality. It didn't sound robotic, and then they turned it off. I liked it. It was very, very useful, very functional. It did what it's supposed to do, right? And several other networks have done it for video avatars, where they replaced their anchor person, the person that you normally see speaking the news. They replaced them with an avatar, and no one could tell. And they didn't tell anybody for like 2 months, just to see if anyone could tell.
Yeah, that's crazy. But who do you pay? You don't have to pay the real person. That's the thing.
That is a great question.
They're saving money. Yeah.
Well,
they're saving the money. I mean, I'm coming from journalism. I know which debates they have. Okay,
of course
it's not like it's not a big secret. But back to the example that you mentioned. So first they had the avatar, and then they turned it off. You said.
They had the audio avatar speaking the news.
And the audio, yes.
Yeah. So this was literally the Financial Times. So the Financial Times.
And why did they turn it off? So they
why
do you know the reason?
No, they didn't give a news. They didn't give a reason. Okay. But every weekday that they Microsoft Azure AI read aloud the news. And it was a female voice. They announced it for the first time that it was a Microsoft Azure AI voice. They didn't give a name, because often when you hear the news, especially audio, they give their affiliation and their name, right? So like, Henrik Gyor with so-and-so source, right? And they didn't do that. So that's your first clue, right? That it's because why would you not want to give, your credit? Because as you know, as a journalist, or a former journalist for that matter, just like I am, credit is important because you want authenticity and credibility, saying, oh, well, I've reported this. So back to the source. The source is this person or this entity, right? So instead the source was actually the Financial Times. The other group that did this, they were doing it on television. This is actually in China. The avatar was a video avatar of the same person that typically did the news, and you could not tell them. You could not tell because the synthesis was that good, and the anchor typically doesn't move that much, right? They tell the news, and then something appears here, and then they fade out to the story, right? So it was undetected for 70 days, which was fascinating. So, anyways.
I like that. I mean, it's to some degree it scares people because of this replacement discussion is a big thing. I think people are often afraid of, because I mean, you can produce with GPT-3 the weather. When I had my first experience as a video journalist in my local hometown, this was 2009. All week I did the weather. So how was going to? That was my first internship that I made, and nobody of the editors wanted to do the weather, and I had this all the time. And now you can automate this. The AI can do this much more efficient, much faster.
Oh yeah.
Everywhere
Absolutely.
where you have this generic data, you can use this. And but the moderator, I mean, these guys are the heroes on video journalism. Yeah, at least
especially for the weather guy pointing
Yeah.
at the different part of the map, right? That's saying, oh, over here you're gonna have rain or sunshine or whatever, right? So yeah, there is that. But back to the replacement part. So that is a fear that a lot of people have, is this is going to replace me. This is going to take away my jobs. So every evolution, every revolution, like the Industrial Revolution, the Agricultural Revolution, the Computer Revolution, every revolution or evolution like this has had that exact same fear. Oh, it's going to take farmers' jobs away. It's going to take horses' jobs away. It's going to take typewriter repair people's jobs away. Yes, unfortunately, those mostly disappeared, and we don't really miss them that much. But it created far more jobs, if you remember, right? The computer evolution did create a lot more jobs than it removed. And now we use them all the time, and we have them in our pockets, right? And we're using them right now. So that it's not a replacement, it's a scalability, it's an and. It's not me or the computer, it's me and the computer, right? It's me and synthetic media. It's you and synthetic media. And that's the first thing to reset that frame. The other reframing that you need to understand, it's also about scalability, right? The scalability factor of synthetic media. If you're a singer, right? Okay, you can only be at one venue at a time. You can only be in front of one camera to one audience at a time and singing in one language at a time. That's no longer the case. With a little bit of work, I'm going to say a few hours of work, your AI can sing for you to every single fan, personalized. So instead of flying to people's birthday parties just to sing at their birthday party, your avatar can do that. Okay? So and you can still charge for it because it's personalized. Okay? For actors, same thing. Many actors, including Bruce Willis, who retired, he's having his avatar do all the ads for him. Eventually, his avatar will be doing the movies for him as well. And literally by the end of the decade, that we're going to have synthetic digital humans that only exist in digital form. We'll have our favorite actors that are in digital form, and we'll have our favorite actors in real form, in human form. And those will be the actors of tomorrow. You'll have literally digital humans where there is no human in existence. You'll have the digital human where they can do 16 movies at a time or 100 movies at a time, meaning they'll create more content and still get paid. And then there'll be the digital human, the digital person the human itself that can do whatever they want. They can retire if they want. They can just do whatever they want, or they can do a movie at a much higher rate. If you think about it, because doing it physically will eventually be more expensive, and probably still is more expensive than doing it this way in synthetic media. Synthetic media is already being used in movies, and it will continue being used in movies well into the future until it literally becomes the movie itself, the entire thing, because you can create entire scenes from just scratch. Like I want a mountain scene. No, I want more snow. No, I want more mountains. No, I want 3 peaks. And you can literally say it and it'll just create it for you just instantaneously. Okay. And then I want it rotated this way. No, I want more higher peaks, whatever you want. Or I want to zoom into that peak right there. So you can create the scenes, you can create the actors, you can create the voices, you can change the voices language, right? So imagine being talent, whether you're an actor or a singer, you can sing or speak in any language with your voice, and you no longer have to use the people that used to do that. Now, on the back end, currently it is still using someone singing for you in that language, and then what they do is they translate it into your voice. That's how they're doing it on the back end, which is fascinating. But that eventually will probably melt away. Currently, someone still has to say it because text to speech still sounds robotic, right? For the most part. And you can use that on your computer or your phone, and you'll hear it all day long. I use it all the time because it's a great time savings. If you want to talk about things that you can use all day long, I have every article read to me by my computer or my phone. Every single article, every single email is read to me. Because why should I bother reading an exciting contract, right? Because everyone wants to read an exciting contract in great detail, word by word, with my eyes, while I can, at 10 o'clock at night, for example, when I can have it read to me and I can skim along with it and go, oh, okay, yes, I get that. Oh, let me flag that part, that kind of thing, right? So imagine having everything read to you. So it's so much easier, and it's a time savings. I consume more. I'm an author. I'm a written author. I have published literally 9 books. I prefer audiobooks to consume myself. Full disclosure.
Yeah.
I don't have the patience to sit down with a physical book. That's literally that's a fact. I'm sorry. It's true. So if it's not in audiobook form, I didn't read it. Or if I can't scan the text and have it text to speech, I didn't read it.
Yeah, me too, by the way. So, but maybe to the re-speech as the tool that you mentioned, right? Where the singer can.
Yes.
So, can I use, for example, me as a consultant who's not singing? I don't want to sing. It's not something that you want to hear. But anyway, so if I want, for example, increase my audience and I want to reach Chinese people, and could I, for example, say, okay, I'm training the model, I'm saying things, and then the model is creating my speech in Chinese, or how does it work?
So what you do is you train the model with a script. So basically, you train a model with a very specific script of not what you're saying necessarily, because they already give you the script, so they know what you're saying, but it's how you say it, right? So with your accent, your tonality, all the different things that happen in language that I don't know enough about, honestly. But the people who are working on language, so synthetic speech, or AI voice, sometimes it's called as well. So if you can use either hashtag or either thing when you're searching in Google for AI voice or synthetic speech or synthetic voice, or speech to speech, which is what Respeecher does. So it's my speech, right, in English to my speech in Chinese or Mandarin, to your point, or your voice, or someone who's speaking Mandarin, right, singing, and they can be male or female, interestingly enough, and they'll translate it to your voice, whether you're singing or speaking.
Yeah, so I know this exists already. For example, one tool that I use was Descript, and you have the script, you're reading it, and then you can just type, and then you could produce your podcast solo show,
Yes.
like,
Yes.
for example. But
Yes.
what you're saying is that you not only have the voice, but also the video, right? So that people can see how I'm singing, basically like a synthetic video, right?
Yes. Yes. So you have to train your own AI. If you
Yeah.
want a synthetic video, you have to train a video of yourself at the angle that you want. You can be multiple angles, just like the musical artist who did this recently was called Aloe Black. He's an American singer. So ALOE, and then I believe it's let me look up the person's name real quick. The last name was I think it's BLACC, I believe. So Aloe Black. And so he's an American singer. He has several well-known songs. In the video that you can look up, he sings a song called "Wake Me Up." So and there's a universal language mix that you can find on YouTube, where at first he sings in Mandarin, then he sings in Spanish, and then he speaks in his native English. Mind you, I don't think he knows how to speak Mandarin or Spanish, but that's not relevant. And those are just two examples of other languages that you can sing in, right? Or say. It used to be a big thing that you could say it, just not sing, because singing is just a huge difference, right? It's a massive change, because singing, not only do you have the music in the background, but you also have massive difference of tonality when you're singing, right? Because when I'm speaking to you right now, I'm not changing my tone that much. When you're singing, you are, right? And you're doing much more lengthier tones, right? And things like that.
Yes.
So it's just a huge milestone in synthetic media. That's one inspirational thing that's to take back and watch and consume. The other one I would suggest taking a look at is, her name is Emma, so EMMA, and if you look up Ziva Dynamics, so ZIVA, Ziva Dynamics was a Canadian company that got bought up by Unity. So many of us know Unity because they make a lot of different things, just like Unreal Engine does. And when Unity saw this, they were like, "We're buying your company," because it's that amazing, among other things. So Emma is just mind blowing. You can watch a 4K video of Emma speaking and announcing the partnership or the acquisition of Ziva by Unity, and she moves like a regular human does, and there's almost nothing you can tell unless you know exactly what you're looking for, that it is not not a digital human, but it is.
Yes. So I saw both videos. You sent them to me after our last conversation, and I was just blown away. So if this is something that everybody can create in a couple of years, then there will be no need anymore to to stand in front of the camera like we are doing it, because
Yeah.
it will be that good that you can't see any difference. That's
Exactly.
crazy.
Yeah. You can create your own avatar today, and there's a whole host of tools that do that today. So I use one of those tools to do that recently.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
Which one?
So I use Colossian.
Colossian. I'm also going to do it.
Yep. There's a number of others that do this as well. It's your choice which one you decide to use. So I've interviewed the people from Colossian. I understand how they're doing and what they're doing, and it's just fascinating to watch their evolution. So it's basically, if you think beyond just audio visual, what will be possible very shortly in augmented reality, mixed reality, and virtual reality for the metaverse. Because this will be a building block for that. Is the short story, because it'll be, as long as you have your own avatar, eventually you'll be able to transfer it to one degree or another to those spaces, to extended reality is what that short answer is. So all the things that I just spoke about, augmented reality, mixed reality, and virtual reality, the umbrella is basically extended reality. And that's coming very, very soon to glasses and goggles near us, and it's very, very exciting. But right now it's just going to be virtual on our screens until we have the hardware that is more portable and more miniaturized to carry around. Did you want to talk about synthetic touch, taste, and smell?
Yeah, I think I can talk with you all day long, but we're running a little bit of time. So yeah, we could. So touch would be interesting.
Sure.
You mentioned, yeah. Let's start with touch. Yes.
Yeah,
So that's
sure.
one that I'm
Absolutely.
curious.
Yep. So synthetic touch is basically haptics. So it's feedback, right? So the first thing is making the imagine you're holding a ball, or you're prototyping a physical product, whether it's a plane, a car, a phone, whatever, right? It doesn't really matter what it is. Usually it's meant for larger objects, right? That you want to be able to touch, right? So the current iterations is used a lot for prototyping, because plane manufacturers, expensive plane manufacturers, all the well-known ones that you can think of, as well as some car manufacturers, are using this so that they can feel a car before it's built and understand where are the knobs, how do you fly the machine, how do you drive the car, what does it feel like, what does the outside and inside feel like and look like, so you can feel the fabric, you can feel down to 1/10 of a millimeter. That's how far it senses. Okay. And then not only can you feel things on your touch, on the different parts of your hand, right? So on your fingerprints, your fingertips, as well as your palm, but also when you're pulling on something, you can feel the resistance. Like when you're opening the compartment to put your luggage in the plane, you can feel that resistance. When you're feeling the outside of the plane, you can feel all the rivets. When you're feeling the outside of the car, you can feel that any part of the car or the inside of the car, the knobs, where the knobs are, and you can feel the resistance of the knob or the whatever you're turning or toggling, right? And you can feel that. So that's synthetic touch, and right now it's not miniaturized. It's still fairly large. So basically, it looks like a large glove, and eventually it's going to get miniaturized so that you can feel something. The less you have to feel, like if you don't have to feel resistance and you just have to feel something on your fingertips or your palm, the smaller the glove can be right now. If you have to feel resistance, there's a lot more mechanics to feel that, to make that resistance happen, and that's part of the challenge. And the more sensitive it is right now, it requires, like the top end ones require a backpack and enormous gloves that make your hand about twice as big. So that's helpful for people who are prototyping and testing things, who want to fly a plane before it's built, that kind of thing, or drive a car in a simulator, right? To feel the resistance of the car, not just in the steering wheel and the pedals and the gear shifter, but everything around you, so you can feel every part, including the door handles and any part of the car that you can see and touch. So that's the haptics. The other two, people have been working on for over 10 years, which is just fascinating. As far as synthetic smell and scent, which is just also mind blowing.
That's awesome. I have. How many podcast episodes do you have? All.
So I came out today with my 36th episode, and I have many more coming, because I'm recording next year's episodes now. So I already have over 20 recorded for next year, for 2023. So I plan to have many more, because there's so much more to talk about, and it's evolving, which is just fascinating. So
typically, at the end, I ask something like, "Who can you recommend for my podcast or for my live show?" But I mean, everybody that was on your radar is potentially interesting for me. So
sure.
Yeah, I would would appreciate if you could make some intros who are within the space, especially in the content space. That would be awesome. Yeah, a last thing that you want to share. So for all the people who maybe are scared for this kind of technology, that you want to share with them, something
Sure. Yeah.
that we
So a lot
didn't
of the
spoke about.
Absolutely. So a lot of these have free trials, right? Short trials or very inexpensive trials where you can try them out and you can test it. First, check out the videos of which ones will interest you first, right? And you can find them just typing in synthetic media or synthetic content or generative AI. You can find or synthetic voice if that's your interest, or synthetic video, or video avatars. Check out what what's primarily interesting you, what you're actually curious about or afraid about, and dive in by checking it out, looking at the reviews, understanding how it works. You can see probably YouTubers that have done this already for on their part, just like what we're doing right now, and talking about it, and then understanding how it's done, right? So you can go down that rabbit hole and create your own avatar if you really want to, whether it's your voice avatar or your video avatar, or both, right? For obvious reasons, since video is necessary with audio, right? And walk down that process if that's of interest to you. There's a fee to create an avatar currently. There are some tools where you can create a more basic avatar with literally your phone. There's one that where you can create an avatar with your phone, where you just you just move your phone around, and it creates an avatar for you.
Which one is it?
I'm gonna have to get back to you on which one it is, so you can put it in the show notes. But it's relatively popular, and I saw the individual on another webinar. There are webinars like this on this topic on a very regular basis. So do check them out, and take a look at what's piquing your interest, so you can get over that fear, because it's coming and it's not going to go away. So you may as well understand it more and see if you can leverage it for your own purposes, if and when it makes sense for you. But don't be afraid of it, because fear is only going to hold you back, rather than empowering you with tools that will simplify your life.
Exactly. That's awesome. Thank you, Henrik, for your time. It was really awesome to speak with you. Definitely have to check out your book. And yes, so thanks. I have a feeling this is the starting point for much more things that we're going to do together. Thanks for your time, and also the listeners and watchers. Thank you also for watching this, and see you on the next episode. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Thanks again.